Have you ever posted something online, a photo, an idea, a piece of your work, and then found yourself compulsively checking, waiting, almost holding your breath for the likes, the comments, the validation to roll in? Each notification a small hit, each silence a subtle sting. Or perhaps you've been in a meeting, a discussion, a simple conversation, and you've stayed silent, a crucial thought unvoiced, because you instinctively feared what others might think. The potential judgment, the disagreement, the subtle shift in their perception of you. Or maybe you've even changed your mind, altered a decision, big or small. Not because new information emerged, not because your own conviction shifted, but primarily to avoid disapproval, to sidestep potential conflict, to fit in more seamlessly. We live in a world that seems utterly obsessed with being liked, with garnering approval. It's a current that runs through our digital interactions and our face-to-face encounters. It whispers in our public personas and echoes in our private anxieties. This relentless pursuit of external affirmation feels almost like breathing, automatic, necessary. But what if I told you this deeply ingrained need, this constant chase for external validation, is not just a harmless quirk of modern life, but a carefully disguised trap, a gilded cage that limits our truest expression? The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, a man who endured slavery to become one of antiquity's most revered thinkers, offered a stark and liberating perspective on this very human struggle. He advised, with unwavering clarity, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Imagine the audacity of that statement in our image-conscious world. Be content to be perceived negatively by some, if it means you are progressing on a path of genuine self-improvement and integrity. The Stoics were unequivocally clear. Your allegiance must be to truth, to your own reasoned principles, not to the shifting sands of public opinion or fleeting popularity. Your inner integrity, the wholeness of your character, is a treasure far more valuable than any round of applause or chorus of approval. Because being liked, that's a temporary state, dependent on others, on circumstances, on perceptions you cannot fully control. It can be given and withdrawn in an instant. But being free from a need for external validation, free to act in accordance with your deepest values. That is a state of being that, once cultivated, can indeed feel eternal, an unshakable foundation within. Why is this need for approval so deeply embedded in us? On a fundamental level, approval often feels like safety. It's a primal instinct. Biologically, we are wired to seek belonging. For our ancestors, living in small, interdependent tribes, social acceptance wasn't just a preference. It was a matter of survival. To be ostracized, to be cast out from the group, often meant facing the harsh realities of nature alone, a near certain death sentence. So, our brains evolved sophisticated mechanisms to monitor social cues, to ensure we fit in, to gain the tribe's acceptance and protection. But in the modern world, this ancient, hardwired instinct has been, in many ways, hijacked and amplified. The context has changed dramatically, but the underlying wiring remains. The tribe is now global, the feedback instantaneous and often superficial. And so, a crucial shift occurs. We stop seeking genuine connection, which is about mutual understanding and shared experience, and instead, we increasingly seek validation, the quick hit of external affirmation. We unconsciously learn to curate our personalities, to smooth our rough edges, sometimes even to trade our authentic truth for a moment of applause, a nod of agreement. And in doing so, bit by bit, we risk losing ourselves. We become a reflection of what we think others want to see, rather than an expression of who we truly are. Stoicism powerfully reminds us of a critical distinction here. The opinions, judgments, and reactions of others are ultimately outside your direct control. They belong to them. But your character, your choices, your responses, your integrity, the person you decide to be in the face of approval or disapproval, these are emphatically not outside your control. These are yours to cultivate and command. Modern psychology echoes these Stoic concerns, offering contemporary language for this ancient struggle. Some psychologists refer to the intense, often compulsive, drive for external affirmation as an approval addiction. The mechanism is quite tangible. When others approve of us, when we receive positive social feedback, our brains release a neurotransmitter called dopamine. This is the same chemical involved in pleasure and reward, the same one activated by delicious food, accomplishing a goal, or even addictive substances. It feels good, a temporary high, but like any drug, its effects are fleeting. The initial rush of pleasure from being liked or validated fades quickly. And what happens then? We begin to crave more. We need another hit, another dose of approval to regain that feeling. This can create a cycle of seeking validation, experiencing a brief reward, and then feeling an emptiness that drives us to seek even more. Studies and everyday observations reveal the extent of this pattern. People often prioritize being liked over being honest, or even over being true to their own needs. They might offer a smile when they feel sad or overwhelmed. They might quickly agree with a popular opinion even when they harbor private doubts. They might apologize profusely for things that aren't their fault, simply to placate others and maintain a sense of acceptance. And slowly, almost imperceptibly with each small concession, each act of self-betrayal for the sake of approval, they can start to disappear, their authentic self buried under layers of agreeable facades. Let me tell you a story about a woman I once knew. Let's call her Clara. For years, Clara had pursued a prestigious, demanding career. It wasn't a path she had chosen from her heart, but one she kept diligently and with great sacrifice, primarily to make her family proud, to meet their expectations, to earn their applause. And they did applaud. Everyone around her praised her title, her apparent success, the comfortable life it afforded. But no one saw the quiet tears she shed on her commute home, the growing emptiness that her achievements couldn't fill, the slow wilting of her own passions. Her life was a performance, highly acclaimed, but deeply unfulfilling for the performer herself. One day, after a particularly soul-crushing week, something within her snapped. She walked into her office, tendered her resignation, and walked out. She had no concrete plan. There was no applause this time, only shock and concern from those around her. She left with just a journal, a backpack, and a terrifying, exhilarating sense of the unknown. She traveled. She volunteered at an animal shelter. She took long walks in nature. She wrote poetry she never showed anyone. She worked odd jobs that paid little but taught her much. She wasn't chasing titles or external validation anymore. She was slowly, sometimes painfully, reacquainting herself with who she was beneath the layers of expectation. Years later, living a simpler but far more authentic life, she reflected. For so long, I lived for their applause. When I finally walked away from what they wanted from me, they stopped clapping. Their approval vanished. But it was only then in that silence that for the first time in my adult life, I truly started living. I started to hear my own applause, and it was the only kind that mattered. Now, let's bring this reflection closer to home, into the quiet corners of our own lives. Take a moment, a genuine pause. Ask yourself, whose approval are you still chasing, perhaps unconsciously? Is it a parent whose expectations have loomed large since childhood? A partner whose validation feels essential? Friends whose acceptance you fear losing? Perhaps it's the approval of strangers on the internet, a faceless crowd whose opinions you've somehow allowed to shape your self-worth. Or maybe, most subtly, you're chasing the approval of a younger version of yourself. Try to live up to outdated dreams or ideals you've long since outgrown. Consider this. What would you do differently? What passions would you pursue? What risks would you take? What changes would you make? If absolutely no one was watching, if there were no likes to count, no praise to earn, no criticism to fear, and what would you say? What truths would you speak? What boundaries would you set? What opinions would you voice? If no one had to agree with you, if your words could simply stand on their own merit, reflecting your genuine perspective. The Stoics pose a fundamental question that cuts to the heart of this. What is truly yours? Your thoughts, your principles, your actions, and what rightfully belongs to others, their opinions, their reactions, their approval. Disentangling these two is a key to inner freedom. The quest for approval, for that fleeting warmth of being liked, is a powerful human drive. But as we've explored, it's a source of fleeting satisfaction at best, and a profound trap at worst. Approval is external, conditional, and often transient. It can vanish with the next opinion, the next trend, the next misunderstanding. But self-respect, the deep, unwavering regard you hold for yourself, rooted in living authentically and with integrity, that is an internal fortress. That is a companion for a lifetime. So let the world clap or boo. Let them shower you with praise or shower you with indifference. Let them love you, misunderstand you, or even forget you. These are their responses, their perceptions, their stories. Your only sacred duty in this regard is to not forget to be you, to honor your own inner voice, to live by your own reasoned principles, to make choices that align with your deepest sense of truth, even when it's unpopular, even when it's lonely. Build your inner citadel, as the Stoics urged. Create that internal space of clarity, resilience, and self-acceptance. And inside that citadel, grounded in your own worth, stand free. Undiminished by criticism, uninflated by praise. If this message, this reflection, has spoken to something within you, take a moment to reflect further. Share these ideas if you feel they might resonate with others. And consider subscribing to continue this journey inward with us. This exploration has just begun.